What's up guys, Readiness Reviews here with you again. We are going to be checking out another military surplus rifle unboxing. In front of me here we have another double box, however we're only going to be looking at one of these rifles today. I just got this in from Empire Arms. I've actually followed their website for several years, but this is my first time actually completing an order with them. If you've never heard of Empire Arms before, they've been around for a long time. They do a weekly or bi-weekly newsletter, essentially, that has military surplus firearms listed that they are offering for sale. It's pretty much a mad dash for everyone interested in buying a specific firearm. Their ordering process is sort of complicated. You have to send various emails to different email addresses. I've tried ordering several rifles from them in the past, but I've always been beaten by someone else. Finally, I did get an order through though, and that's what we'll be taking a look at today. Let's open up this first box. Looks like we have a little bit of newspaper in there and a heavily bubble wrapped firearm. All right, so this is not the one that we're going to be talking about in the video today. We'll save this one for a future video, but that'll be a little sneak peek for another video I'll have coming. I guess the one that we want to look at today is going to be in this bottom box. Oh yeah, that's more like it. Let's get this guy out of here. All right, so there is our rifle. Looks like they did a fantastic job of wrapping it. Cut some of this tape away. That was very well taped. This bubble wrap certainly wasn't going anywhere. There she blows. It appears I've added yet another Cold War era battle rifle to my collection. This is a French MAS 49-56 semi-auto rifle. This particular example is one of the rifles that was imported by Century Arms and converted to 7.62 NATO or 308 Winchester. So far, I'm really liking what I'm seeing condition-wise. This thing looks in great shape. Has the sling still attached. Has all of that awesome grenade launching hardware in the front. Flash hider, and even rubber butt pad. There's our detachable 10-round box magazine. The action's open there. We do have a clear firearm. This thing is certainly unique looking, has very interesting lines and contours. You see that a lot with French firearms. It definitely has that characteristically French aesthetic. Takes a lot from the MAS 36 in its looks. The MAS 49-56 was developed and produced by manufacturer d'Armes de Saint-Étienne in France. It's actually the updated version of the MAS 49, which was in development prior to and during World War II. Those went into production after World War II ended, and about 20,000 were produced. That rifle, the MAS 49, saw action with French forces in the Suez Crisis, the First Indochina War, and the Algerian War. From those conflicts, France decided some changes need to be made to the rifle. Steps were taken to shorten the overall length and to lighten the rifle. They also wanted to integrate the capability to fire 22mm standard NATO rifle grenades. That's where the implementation of this awesome grenade launching hardware was put in. The rifle that they came up with after those updates is the one that you see before you. They designated it MAS 49-56, being a MAS 49 that was updated and accepted into French service in 1956. That was the year they first started production on it, and it continued production until 1965. Over that course of time, about 275,000 of this particular model of rifle was produced. In general, these rifles were well liked and considered quite sturdy and reliable with the standard 7.5 by 54mm French cartridge. In 1978, the French adopted the FAMAS bullpup assault rifle as their standard infantry arm, and at that point, this rifle began to be phased out. Like with many other Cold War era rifles, the MAS 49-56 would be given to numerous other countries as military aid, and in some cases captured by other militaries. Many of the countries that also used the MAS 49-56 were former colonies of France or other European powers. And because it was sort of handed around in those former colonies, it would be seen in action during various regional conflicts around the world in the latter half of the 20th century. The weight of this rifle comes in at a pretty stout 9 pounds. The overall length is sort of an intermediate carbine length at just over 40 inches. And the barrel length on the French service model of the rifle is just shy of 21 inches at 20.7 inches. Now, like I said just a minute ago, these rifles were considered durable and reliable during their service life. This particular rifle, however, has been messed with since it's made its way to the US. As I stated earlier in the video, Century Arms got their hands on this one and converted it to 7.62 NATO, which is not the cartridge this rifle was originally designed for. Years ago, Century imported a whole gang of these into the country, and they did that conversion in hopes of making them a more desirable rifle on the American market. People quickly came to the realization that that was probably a bad idea. These rechambered rifles were plagued with reliability issues. Most of these issues were related to cartridge extraction, but there's also an ongoing issue of slam fires. In Century's conversion process, both the barrel and the gas tube were cut down very slightly. That, along with the higher pressure of the 7.62 NATO round, is supposedly what leads to these reliability issues that this rifle suffers from. Well, you asked me, if it's an unreliable rifle, why did you buy it? Well, first off, I thought it was a pretty decent deal. You don't really see these that often anymore, and the prices tend to be higher and higher every single year. 7.62 NATO is a round that I stock in mass, so I have plenty of that ammo floating around in my inventory. 7.5 French is not a round that I have a lot of, and so even if this rifle does have some reliability hiccups, I would still rather be able to feed it ammo that I have plenty of than ammo that I don't have any of and is more expensive to get in general. On Empire Arms listing for the firearm, they said that this particular rifle was made in 1964. They had it listed as very good condition with worn parkerizing. The parkerization is pretty worn on it, but has a very good look, I think. They said that it has a great mirror bright bore. I'll insert some footage of that right now. We'll see if it really is as good as they say it is. And reportedly, this rifle I have before me is a very reliable shooter. I guess we'll figure out if that's true or not when we take it to the range. So we have sort of a combo rear sight. It's an aperture sight, but it also has a ladder that raises up and down. It looks like it's graduated from 100 meters to 1200 meters. One of the points of failure on these rifles is this plastic bolt knob. There are available replacements for this, and a lot of people do replace them. Many of these rifles that you run into in the wild, this part will be cracked. It looks like it's in good shape on this one. The wood furniture on this rifle looks pretty good. It does have some handling wear, couple little scratches and little dings and dents, but nothing too serious, no cracks or anything. Up here on the muzzle end, we have a front sight post being protected by two wings there. Of course, we have our grenade launching sight. To deploy that, you just pull back on this and then raise it up. And this rifle has a very interesting and cool looking flash hider on it. The rifle that this one replaced, the MAS 49, had an integral bayonet. When they did the update to the 4956, they gave the rifles a detachable knife bayonet. I don't have one of those yet, but I do plan to get one. Of course, this rifle is semi-automatic and magazine fed, just like many of its Cold War contemporaries. It operates on a direct gas impingement system. A lot of you might be familiar with that term from AR-15s. This is actually a more true version of gas impingement. A round is stripped off the magazine and into the chamber. A pull of the trigger drops the firing pin, firing the round. The bullet goes down the barrel. There is a port in the barrel that taps a little bit of the gas off. The gas then goes down a gas tube that's very similar to the gas tube of that of the AR-15, down through this little port here, and that hot expanding gas goes into this hole in the bolt carrier, causing the bolt to open up, cycling the action, and in turn stripping another round off the magazine. This rifle can be fed by both detachable magazines and stripper clips. It has a integral stripper clip notch right there for loading with stripper clips. French forces would have been issued 4 magazines along with their rifle. The idea behind that was that you initially fire from your 10-round box magazines until you have exhausted them, and then at that point, you would change it up to stripper clip feeding. Let's take a look at the bolt in the carrier right quick. To do so, we press down on this little button in the back of the receiver, push forward a little bit, and then ease it back. This rear receiver cover has the sight built into it. It's a pretty heavy chunk of steel, and it has a little guide rod for the spring. There's the main spring for the action. Supposedly these are a little bit shorter in the Century 308s than they are in the original French 7.5 rifles. The bolt will look a little bit similar to anyone who's taken apart an SKS before. It has a bolt and a carrier, just like an SKS, although this does operate a little bit different. There's the firing pin. When I was talking about the reliability issues of the 308 rifles, this is one of the parts that people will change a lot of times. By lightening up the firing pin, you can help to stop that slam firing issue that this rifle has from time to time. The receiver itself is from milled steel, fairly thick at that. This rifle was designed prior to wide-scale stamping of receivers. For the time that this rifle was developed, technologically, it was right in line with its contemporaries. Semi-automatic system, interchangeable magazine loading with stripper clip feeding, pretty decent aperture sight, and grenade launching capability. Size and weight-wise, it's right in line with other Cold War battle rifles, SKS, VZ52, even the US M14. Towards the end of this rifle's service life, though, its competitors changed a little bit. It was up against the FAL, the AK, and of course the absolutely fantastic AR-15 M16. It does fire a full-sized rifle cartridge, as opposed to an intermediate cartridge. Like a lot of your other carbine length rifles, this is a fairly small and short length rifle to have such a large full-size rifle cartridge. At least visibly, I'm very happy with what I received from Empire Arms. We are still yet to see whether or not it is a reliable shooter. Fingers crossed, it will be like they said it is. If it does have hiccups from time to time, that won't ruin my day. Just clear the malfunction and keep on moving. It's always cool to be able to add another Cold War rifle to the collection. That is among my favorite segments of military surplus collecting. And French rifles are pretty dang cool to boot. Thanks so much for checking the video out, guys. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you learned something in this video. And if not, maybe you at least enjoyed just checking out this cool rifle and piece of military history. If you have any experience with a Century MAS 49-56, let me know down in the comments. Also, let me know what you thought about this video and this rifle in general. If you notice anything about this particular rifle that I didn't go over in the video, please let me know. That's one of the best ways I've learned about the rifles that I've added to my collection, is guys point things out in the comments. If you liked the video, hit that thumbs up. I really appreciate that, and it helps me out with the Google algorithm. And if you want to see more cool rifles like this in the future, sub to the channel because I will have more content incoming. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. See you then. Peace.